7 p.m. and I'm reconvening to open session and calling to order the regular Board of Education meeting for Indian Prairie School District 204 on Monday, December 2nd, 2024. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Donahue?
Here.
Ms. Jane?
Here.
Mr. Karubas?
Here.
Ms. Deming?
Present.
Ms. Fosdick?
Here.
Mr. Rising? Here. And Ms. Skentz?
Here.
We have a quorum. Ms. Fosdick, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next regular board meeting will be held on Monday, December 16th. We have one board salute tonight. Ms. Jane.
District 204 students receive Kids Matter Youth Service Awards. The board salutes 9 District 204 high school students who received Youth Service Awards from the City of Naperville and Kids Matter. The Youth Service Award recognizes and honors outstanding volunteer efforts by local area students and encourages all youths to get involved in community service. The 2024 honorees nominated by community organizations are Gregory Middle School 7th grader Molly Rintoul, Mattia Valley seniors Olivia Huff, Monish Mala, and Anirudh Sharavanan, and from Neequa Valley seniors Advit Aurora, Lily Bradley, Shrey Patel, and Sylvia Steger, and Wabansi Valley senior Yagnesh Lokesh. Congratulations to all students who were honored with this notable award.
Let's congratulate all of them for this accomplishment. We now have a student representative report by Soha Panchal from Mattia Valley High School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Soha Panchal, and I'm the Executive Board Representative for Mattia Valley High School. And it's always a pleasure for me to be here with you today. First, I would like to start off with general updates. Our math team earned a second place spot at their most recent meet. Our speech team placed second at their annual Thanksgiving tournament out of 20 teams, and our counseling's department hosted hundreds of families for academic planning night. Next, I would like to move on to athletics. We had a good start for our boys basketball team. They won 3-1 at the Thanksgiving tournament. Freshman wrestling won 7-0 over break. Signing day was November 13th. We celebrated 7 athletes from girls volleyball, girls soccer, girls tennis, and baseball. Girls and boys XC and girls swim and dive had state qualifiers compete at state level. And girls volleyball are now DVC champions. Lastly, I would like to move on to fine arts. We are looking forward to Collage Concert this weekend, and the Fall Play Puffs was a huge success. Congratulations to all involved. And congratulations to our 66 Mattia Valley student musicians on their acceptance and participation in the Illinois Music Education Association District 9 and Concert Jazz Festivals. That's a wrap on our report this evening. Thank you all for your time, and I look forward to updating you all on the future events at Mattia Valley. And as always, go Mustangs.
Thank you so much. Next, we're excited to have a school spotlight on Patterson Elementary. So welcome. We have the presentation from Michelle Heavenstreet, Ali DePeisler, and Heidi Miller. Welcome.
All right. When asked to think about what...
1 second.
Oh.
Do we have a...
Lost connection with the stream. Let me just... 1 second.
Okay. We'll have to wait a second. I love the shirts, by the way. Yeah. Good. Okay, we're good to go. So welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. When asked to think about what to spotlight from Patterson, it was really hard, but as soon as I saw our students in action in all of the clubs, I knew that's what we need to highlight. That is something that does make Patterson unique. Not only are we creating that sense of community and giving opportunities for students to explore their strengths, what they're interested in, what they value, but we're also building and empowering future leaders. I feel like we hear about all of these leadership opportunities a lot at the high school or upper levels, but I thought it's important for the board and community to know we are building those leaders even at the younger levels in elementary. So we would like to highlight some of our clubs at Patterson. The first club is a golf club, and this was the first year that we were able to host the golf club. It was sponsored by Kids Golf Foundation, which our PE teacher connected with. And we also were able to partner with Naperbrook Golf Course, and this was for our 5th grade students. The Kids Golf Foundation provided all of the materials, a golf bag and clubs for every student in the club, tees, golf balls, greens to practice on. They met at a variety of times, either before or after school, and then also were able to play at Naperbrook Golf Course a couple of times as well, and use the putting greens and things like that over there. And again, the feedback from the community was really positive, and just that chance for kids who maybe had never picked up a golf club to give it a try to see if this is an activity they want to pursue outside of school. And it was a really, really fun new club that we tried out this year. Our next club is a favorite, and why we have our shirts on tonight.
So that is our Kind Kids crew, and Ellie and myself, we run that. It's a 3rd grade club. Students come and we meet twice a month. It's a year-long club, and we're just working on activities and fun things, and really talking and teaching them about spreading kindness and positivity in our school and in the community.
And not just to each other, but to themselves, and remembering to be respectful to themselves along with others, and really just showing them the power of kindness.
I think our pictures don't do this justice, but those pictures up there are the kids greeting our students at arrival on a Friday, so they sometimes do like Kindness Friday. And if you could just see the smiles on the kids' faces, the families' faces as they arrived at school, I mean, it was the best thing ever. And my first chance to be able to see that club, being new to Patterson this year, because it's only the 2nd year of this club.
Yes.
It was amazing and just set such a positive tone for the school day, for the kids and the staff. Everybody was just so uplifted and happy. It was really cool to see.
Truly the best part, the kids walking in after doing it was like, that was the best part of my day. It was only 9:05. So it's a very unique, cool way to see these kids making other kids smile.
Anything you can do to spread joy in the parent pickup line is good.
Right?
And a drop-off on a Friday. Yes.
Yeah.
We always have few parents looking at us like, what are you guys doing? What are you celebrating today? We're like, we're celebrating it's Friday.
We're celebrating you. We're so excited. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very fun new activity that the kids are getting very involved in.
Yes.
We have our LMC Advisors Club, and this is for 4th and 5th graders who really are already demonstrating some of those leadership abilities, as well as their love for reading and promoting literacy. They get to help with planning the author's visits. They often introduce the author, greet the author when they come. They also plan what new books should be bought for the LMC, what materials and items we need for makerspace to really make it that student-driven environment in the library. And again, they just show incredible leadership abilities. Even in their meetings, they are really the ones facilitating those meetings, and the supervisor is kind of just sitting back and guiding a little bit. But we really feel like we're setting them off, and they're going to be ready for middle school because they have some of these skills, and they get to be these leaders in our building and show the younger students, like, here's something to look forward to as you get older.
Homework Club is not a new club for Patterson, but a new twist of something we've been doing a long time. So started off as kids coming that just needed to get that homework done at school before they got home. And it was such a success that the teachers that were guiding and being the sponsors of Homework Club couldn't support all the kids. So we had the opportunity to bring in 4th and 5th graders, and they are now tutoring and supporting the younger students in the club. So they're assigned, students both based on what those students need and their, strengths at school. And they've created these great connections. It's another, older kid they can say hi to in the hall, and just really creating that leadership and peer opportunity.
Yeah, you can see in the pictures there's some of the older students kind of working with the younger students, and again, it's filling both of their buckets. They are feeling like they're making a difference for those younger kiddos, and then like Allie said, when they see them in the hallway, they know someone that's older and they've already made another connection in the building, which is really cool.
Another club that's been around for quite a number of years is our Safety Patrol. It's ran by our 5th graders, and during dismissal time, they're just stationed all over inside the building and outside of the building to help those younger kids get to where they need to go safely and on their way home. They're helping kindergartners out of their classroom and to make it to the specific spots they need to be to meet their parents or their older siblings, and they wear the safety belts that you can see in the photo. And again, it's just another time that they can become leaders, and it's been fun to see little kindergartners look up to these 5th graders. To get them
And when you're a kindergartner, you want to be in Safety Patrol. You wait
do.
6 years to be in Safety Patrol. So it's like so exciting when you're finally there. These kids have been, they
really
wait.
Practice those social skills. I had to laugh, like within the first week, some of the big, tough 5th grade boys are holding the little kindergartners' hands, the girly girls walking them out, making those connections. It's really cool to see, and that they rotate every quarter, so it's a new group of students every quarter that get the opportunity. And then lastly, we have our student council, which again is for our 4th and 5th grade students, 3 elected representatives from the class. So we try to emulate that election feel where they do have to get up in front of their class. They have to give a speech and talk about why they would make a good candidate to represent the classroom. They talk about what ideas they have for the school year. Often they come to me and say, hey, if I put this in my speech, would you support this? Would this be okay? Which is really cool. And then the students vote on their representatives, so everyone has that voice. And some of the things they do are planning our spirit days, planning fundraisers for our entire school. Recently at parent-teacher conferences, they were our greeters and our guides for the parents. So they walked parents to classrooms if they didn't know how to get there. They talked about some of the things we had in our front foyer set out and just gave parents really the tour of the building and helped run our conferences in that way. We also have a school store on Fridays, so they run the school store. They make recommendations about what items should be bought for the school store, and then again, they pair up with our younger students and help them shop. They help them count out their money and let them know, well, you have enough for this and this. So just another good demonstration of those leadership opportunities throughout our school.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's just wonderful to see how you're building community and connections and leadership too in such young students. So thank you so much for sharing this information about Patterson.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
It's now time for public comment, and 60 minutes is allowed. Each person has limited to 3 minutes. When addressing the board, we ask that you respect the confidentiality and safety of our students and school district personnel. We also ask that those addressing the board be cognizant that this is an open meeting and is available to all age groups, and as such, ask that you consider who the audience members are this evening and keep comments age appropriate. Public comment represents the voice and opinion of the speaker. There will be no feedback from board members during the meeting, but follow-up will be provided by an administrator as appropriate. Although this is not required, it is helpful for the board to know whether the comments and concerns we hear are being raised by residents. So we ask that you state if you live in the district and if you currently have children in our schools. We have 2 speakers tonight. The first speaker is Alicia Smith.
Hello, my name is Alicia Smith. I'm a resident of the district. I live in the Gombert attendance area where my niece and nephews attend school. I graduated from Gregory and Wabansie Valley, and I taught at Kendall and Georgetown. Upon listening to your comments last week about the district's data that was posted on the Illinois School Report Card site, I was realizing that maybe not everyone realizes that they can go straight to the Illinois School Report Card to receive their data. It's nice that the district presents the data to you all, but I personally, though I would like to hear what my nephew says about his report card, I would also like to go straight to the source. So everyone who's listening, all you students back there, if you go on your phone or on your laptop or on your iPad and you make a new tab and you Google Illinois State Report Card, you will get all the data for all the public schools in Illinois, including Indian Prairie School District 204. In the search engine, you put Indian Prairie and it'll pop up Community School District 204. If you look on the district website or on the district site on the Illinois School Report Card, if you're on your phone, there's a little arrow at the top that'll take you to a toolbar where you can find the individual schools, which is easier to see from your laptop or your iPad. From there, you can look at all of the data. You can look to see what the district's data is. You can look to see how a school in 204 compares to the district and how a school in 204 compares to the state. You could also open multiple tabs and compare to other districts. And you can see, does this issue occur elsewhere, or is this just something pertaining to 204? As well as going to the academic tab, you can look to see how different demographic groups are doing. You can select to compare almost every demographic group that you could think of, and you can look at it historically. So you can see, is this something that has been occurring over time? Are we getting better, or are we not improving and changes need to be made? You can also go to students, and you can look at the demographic information there. You can see how many low-income students are in the school, what is this compared to the state, and what is this compared to the district. The 2 schools that I would hope that everyone on the school board has looked into, and actually district as a district as well. I guess my concern is listening to the school board members' commentary after the data, it didn't seem like some of you had delved into the data yourself before the district provided their set of data, because some of the questions didn't seem that they were very curious or thinking very critically. For instance, if you look at...
Ms. Donahue, the speaker time has ended.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bianca Gazzaldo.
Good evening. My name is Bianca Gazzaldo, and I am a resident of the area, and my children attend Indian Prairie School District 204. And I would like to draw attention to an ongoing issue at Longwood Elementary. In Ms. Papora's 3rd grade class, there is a student causing severe class disruption and emotional stress to the rest of the class. Ms. Papora and other teachers that may have similar situations need more support or help with these types of students. The stress and disruption has caused my son and other students to feel unsafe in class and lose enjoyment in attending school. and I would like to know what is being done to help the entire class, that specific student, and the teachers.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We now move to our consent agenda and superintendent report. We will start with the superintendent report. Dr. Talley.
Thank you, Ms. Donahue, members of the Board of Education, Indian Prairie community. I hope everyone had a most enjoyable Thanksgiving break. If you traveled far or stayed at home, I hope you were able to take time to enjoy some time with people who mean the most to you. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this week, 3 great traditions will continue with the Crystal Concerts at Nequa Valley, the Collage Concert at Mattia, and the Prism Concert at Wabanzi. I know that all of us look forward to these concerts each year. I will speak for myself when I say that they start the holidays for me as I listen to the great music that our students create. We thank IPEF for supporting these events. I remind our community about the parent universities we have in place. For the past several years, we have produced either in person or virtually a variety of parent universities in response to questions parents have asked us or in which parents have expressed interest. Our last one was on November 14th with the topic Understanding School Anxiety. Another one held earlier this year was on restorative practices. We are planning to have others this school year to include study skills and executive functioning, gifted student support, and becoming elementary parents and becoming a middle school parent. You can find more information about our parent universities by visiting our website. I want to thank Dawn Faulkner, our SEL and Wellness Coordinator, Lisa Berry, our Executive Director of Communication, and Ms. Jeannie Dyna, our Assistant Director for Community Relations, on the work they do to create and produce these universities. I will now turn the meeting back over to Ms. Donahue.
Thank you. I now need a motion for approval of consent agenda items D through G.
I move that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items D through G as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Jane?
Yes.
Ms. Deming?
Aye.
Mr. Karubas?
Yes.
Ms. Gentz?
Yes.
Ms. Fosdick?
Yes.
Mr. Rising?
Yes.
And Ms. Donahue?
Yes, the motion passes. Next, we move to our action items. I need a motion for the first action item.
I move that the Board of Education approve the consideration and action on a resolution providing for the issue of not to exceed $15 million in general obligation school building bonds, Series 2024, for the purpose of paying certain costs of the capital projects approved by the referendum at the November 5th, 2024 general election, providing for the levy of taxes to pay said bonds and authorizing the sale of said bonds to purchaser thereof as presented.
I second.
Mr. Shipley?
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. This evening, administration is recommending the board approve a bond parameters resolution. As you know, district voters overwhelmingly approved the bond referendum on November 5th. Both DuPage and Will counties have now certified the results. In total, 44,505 votes were cast in favor of the resolution, compared with 15,830 votes opposed. This represents approximately 74% of voters supporting the resolution. As the results are now official, the district is officially authorized to issue bonds. Each bond issuance, however, requires additional approval by the Board of Education. At the October 21st Board of Education meeting, administration presented a preliminary plan of finance that outlined how, if approved, administration would recommend issuing the $420 million of referendum-approved bonds. Tonight's parameter resolution is consistent with that presentation. As outlined that evening, administration plans to issue bonds periodically over the next 5 years to fund district-wide improvements that were included in the district's master facility plan. The issuance recommended this evening is for up to $15 million of the $420 million the referendum authorized. Administration plans to use these proceeds for some of the highest priority projects outlined during the referendum's informational campaign. These include security upgrades and the planning of the comprehensive improvements to Waubonsie Valley and Neuqua Valley High Schools. The parameter resolution outlines approved ranges for the bond issue. If approved, we are prepared to conduct the bond sale tomorrow consistent with the outlined terms. Significantly, the parameters also ensure the bond repayments will replace other maturing bonds and be able to be repaid without a tax rate increase. We are confident that the structure and timing of the bond maximizes the impact of these funds and will be issued at the lowest true interest cost. The bonds recently received a AA1 bond rating from Moody's Investor Services, with Moody's commenting, and I quote, "The rating reflects the district's strong financial position and prudent budget management." This is the second highest bond rating available for municipal bonds. I have with me this evening Bob Lewis of PMA Securities, who also presented with me in October. He will be serving as the district's municipal advisor on this bond issue and will oversee the bond sale tomorrow if approved. Both Bob and I are now available for any questions the board may have.
Are there any questions or discussion?
I'd like to mess my mic up. I'd like, please comment on the ability to redeem the bonds. I fronted that issue in an email, and I'd just like, not a discussion, but some expand on the ability to redeem or refinance the bonds. Please, you want to take that?
In the entire plan of finance, the district's bonds, most of the bonds we issued for a term of 20 years. This particular bond issue is being issued for a shorter term, and the bonds that are issued for the longer term will be callable generally around 9 to 10 years. These bonds will have a shorter repayment date because, and therefore this particular bond issue will not have a call provision because it's only, I think it's about 8 years or so it's supposed to be outstanding. And the reason why we amortize this one so short, you may remember the strategy of doing the $15 million. This is going to be exempt from arbitrage rebate. So by making it short, you're making the arbitrage yield as small as possible, which is irrelevant because you get to earn an unlimited amount. And by this one being shorter, the other ones get to be longer and have a higher arbitrage yield to try to maximize the investment earnings. So overall, yeah, most of all the bonds we sell will be callable. This particular series will not be.
And the reason why we would want them to be callable is because of changing the interest rate, right?
That is correct, to give you an opportunity to refinance to a lower rate in the future.
And in addition to the term and the amount, we're trying to balance out the total amount borrowed so that the tax rate is flat, right?
That is correct.
Thanks.
Yep.
Matt, how will we be apprised? I know there were comments that this particular $15 million will begin working on our highest priority. How will we continue to be apprised specifically of which areas that this particular bond will impact, and how will there be something that the public can also see in order to keep abreast as well? I know you answered this partly before, but if you can give me an update.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I'll first just reiterate a couple things. So the voters have, again, approved the referendum, which approves the authorization of $420 million worth of bonds to be used for capital projects. With that said, each bond issue will need to be approved by this board or future boards of education. And similarly, each project will also need to be approved and go through the normal purchasing requirements and bid requirements that any capital project or any purchase really by the district's required to follow. So all of that will continue to be brought forward to the Board of Education and be subject to that normal process. We are currently transitioning our Safer, Stronger 204 website from a website that's trying to inform the community about the referendum proposal to now a website that's going to inform the community about our progress. And so that will include informing the community about the progress on the actual projects as they are approved, and it'll also include information on the bonds and what the bonds have been issued for, how much is outstanding, et cetera. I will say we are under very strict requirements, both governed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. These are publicly traded bonds, as well as the IRS. These are tax-exempt bonds. And so we will be following the letter of the law. We definitely do not want to run afoul of either of those organizations. And so part of that is accurately documenting how the proceeds are used, that the proceeds are used for eligible projects. We work very closely with our municipal advisor as well as our internal accounting and finance team to ensure that all that work is done as part of that. And we will continue to, as mentioned, update the board and the public as appropriate as well.
Thank you. We had discussed this before the referendum was approved, but just having that reminder is really helpful so that the public knows that it can keep up to date on the progress. Thank you.
I think that we're all grateful to be moving forward with this, the first step here in issuing these bonds, and excited to see the progress of all of the things we talked about when discussing the referendum. And it's important to have complete fiscal parameters that meet all of the standards and requirements for the industry, and everyone should be assured that we definitely will be following that. So thank you for that. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rising?
Yes.
Ms. Jane?
Yes.
Mr. Karubas?
Yes.
Ms. Skentz?
Yes.
Ms. Deming?
Aye.
Ms. Donahue?
Yes.
And Ms. Fosdick?
Yes.
The motion passes. Okay, next I need someone to make a motion on the second item in our action items.
I move that the Board of Education approve the professional services contract with our architect, White and Company, for comprehensive project pre-design for Waubonsie and Neuqua Valley High Schools and the Burkett Freshman Center as presented.
Second?
Are you going to speak to anything? Yeah.
We will. Yes. Good evening again, members of the Board of Education. As you know, district voters overwhelmingly approved the bond referendum on November 5th. At the November 18th Board of Education meeting, administration presented for your approval the first contracts to be funded by referendum bonds. This evening, we are recommending you approve a contract with the district's architect, White and Company, to begin work on two of the largest projects to be funded by the Safer, Stronger 204 referendum. These projects are the comprehensive improvements and master plan implementation for Waubonsie Valley and Neuqua Valley High Schools. During the Safer, Stronger 204 informational campaign, the district presented a high-level timeline along with the plans for the significant projects to be funded with the referendum. Tonight's approval is consistent with the timeline presented. There is significant planning and design work needed prior to the start of construction work at these facilities. This is due to the large size of these campuses, the age of the facilities, the work envisioned, and the need to do much of the work while the facilities are still operational. If approved this evening, we will begin this planning work immediately with the goal to begin construction on improvements as early as spring of 2026. John Robinson, our Director of Building Operations, will cover some of the specific projects that are included in this contract.
Thanks, Matt. So in addition to the standard architectural services, this comprehensive project contract includes many additional services, and I'll highlight a few of them for you. As we reconfigure and renovate these two schools, we'll need to do some things that are a little outside the scope of a typical architectural service. Just developing a detailed program of how the spaces are going to work is going to be very important. That will determine the scope of work that we need to do. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done up front. Things like researching regulatory requirements, floodplains, zoning. Those are things that we need to keep in mind as well. And then many specialists will need to be brought in. So we have specialty spaces. We have pools, auditoriums, field, stadiums. Even before construction, we'll need to prepare a construction schedule and a phasing plan, as these projects will take several years to complete. And so we need to figure out what we're going to do with our students and where the classes go, and that's going to take a lot of time. That's why we're starting now, so we can get this going. And lastly, I would say that Waubonsee, for example, we do not have the best set of plans for that building due to the age of it. And I heard we lost some plans in a flood years ago. So we'll need to do some scanning and some comprehensive modeling of these buildings so that we really know what the buildings are, how they're made, what's going on, so we can get the work done. So with that, we are ready to go. We're starting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with our architects, and we're willing to answer any questions you guys might have.
All right, does anyone have any questions or discussion?
Excited.
Okay. All right, then Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rising.
Yes.
Ms. Deming.
Aye.
Ms. Donahue.
Yes.
Mr. Karubas.
Yes.
Ms. Jane.
Yes.
Ms. Gintz.
Yes.
And Ms. Fosdick.
Yes. The motion passes. Congratulations. Go for it. Yeah. It's a big thing. It is. Okay, we will now have a presentation from Dr. Rafael Scaro and Ms. Tracy Weigel about English language learners.
Well, dear members, dear Madam President, distinguished members of the board, and Dr. Talley, we are here again this year to provide you an update on the EL program here at Indian Prairie. Before we get started with the actual part of the presentation, these are some of the data points and the things that we're going to review today. We're going to review a little bit of the data. We're going to talk about our language growth in the district. We're going to overview our access scores for our students. We're going to talk a little bit about our newcomers and staffing, the seal of biliteracy, and some professional development. So with that being said,
all right, good evening. Just to clarify, in our ELL world, we have a lot of terminology and acronyms that we use. So we just wanted to clarify a few of those that you'll see commonly in this presentation. So ELL, English Language Learning, that refers to the umbrella of our program and all the language services provided within. ELs, or English learners, are students that qualify for language services. ESL, English as a Second Language, that refers to targeted language instruction in English. TBE, or Transitional Bilingual Education, refers to language services both in English and instruction and or support in the student's native language. And finally, we'll refer to our newcomers. Those are our students that are foreign-born and are recently here within the past year or two. So just to clarify that terminology.
if you remember, this was into two separate slides before, but you all have been here long enough and gone through this, so I didn't feel the need to expand in an individual slide for each. So we have the umbrella, as Tracy mentioned, for English Language Learning Services, which covers our ESL instruction, English as a second language, and also the bilingual education. On the right-hand side, I have a comparison for you, which will also highlight our buildings that are receiving or are slated to receive bilingual services. So any building that has less than 19 students of that same language would receive ESL, English as a second language. Any building in which we have 20 or more of the same language group, then we are mandated to provide them with bilingual instruction and support. As you can see, our number of schools that are gaining the label, if you will, of bilingual services have now gone up to 22. That's 22 out of 32. This used to be much, much smaller years ago. Every building that you see in the list that has an asterisk has bilingual services other than Spanish. We have a few of those buildings in there that are new buildings to the list, by the way.
All right. This slide pretty much highlights the past 4 years and the languages spoken throughout the district, starting in the 21-22 school year. So you can see in that first year, 21-22, we had 109 languages represented in the district. The following year, we went up to 116. Then we took a little dip down to 103, and currently, as of this year, we have 126 languages represented in District 204, and this is students throughout the entire district, not specifically our English learners.
On our next slide, you can see the number of ELs and the rapid growth occurring in our district. Just 4 years ago, we were 1,000 students less than we are today. That data, it was effective 11/22. It varies, one student here, one student there, on a daily basis, literally speaking. But as of right now, we are facing the task of providing services to 4,204 students, which at this time last year, when I sat in front of you and gave you this report, we were at 3,963. Conversely, if you look at this next slide, it will give you a good idea of the shift the community has gone through. Clearly, our population of students has dipped over the past 10 years tremendously, to a degree, right? And then when you look at the right-hand column, you can see that the amount of ELs has grown extremely rapid. And so it's a huge comparison to what our community is going through as we move forward.
All right, this slide shows the drastic change that we've experienced over the years. Dating back to 2005, 2006, 2.5% of the district population was comprised of English learners. This year, we are up to 15.8% of the district population qualifying as English learners. Just to put in perspective, the state of Illinois has 16.4% is the state average. So as you can see, we're just 0.6 away from the state average, so slightly below. And just as of last year, we had 13.1%, just to kind of put it in perspective that our percentage went up over close to 3% from last year to this year.
In terms of staffing for our department, we have continued to grow as the years have gone through. We are doing the best job we can with our kids based on what is available in terms of our resources. We are just 0.9 less staffing this year than we were last year, and that had mainly to do with the fact that I did some rearranging of staffing across the district to help the costs of the district of ensuring that we are trying to provide as many services across the board as possible without taking a hit in the wallet for the district.
All right, this slide shows the top 10 languages in the district for the past 3 years. As you can see, the top 5 languages are the same from year to year. You can see for this year, Russian is now in the 6th place, whereas last year it was 7th, and the year before that it was in 10th. So you can see that there's some changes. And then the bottom 5 are they're pretty much the same, but they're in slightly different order. So you can see that this is the top 10 languages throughout the district. And then this is the top languages within the ELL department. So Spanish, Telugu, Russian, Hindi, Tamil, Urdu, the top 6 are all the same. And then we have some changes in the bottom 4. We do want to point out that from last year to this year we have 425 Russian-speaking English learners, where last year we had 328. So we've grown by almost 100 there. This year, Uzbek is a language that is newly added to our list with 125 students. And then we also wanted to show that our Ukrainian population also went from 82 last year to 106. So we're seeing a rise in the Eastern European languages, the former Soviet Union countries. We're seeing an increase in numbers of those languages.
Wanted to give you a visual as well. And when you compare, Tracy just talked about the Uzbek, you can see how when they went into 9th place last year, they were sitting at about only 75 students. Not only, but 75 students. And right now we are 125. So we've grown 50 EL students in that language alone, which has made them jump from below 10 to now in the 9th spot. And the same trend continues to go. If you see the yellow for the Russian, that just continues to grow every year.
All right, so as you know, our English learners are required to take the Access for ELLs test each winter. This test is a large-scale standardized test that measures English language proficiency in the areas of listening, reading, speaking, and writing. For the state of Illinois, our exit criteria is a 4.8 composite out of 6. So that is what we're striving. Once our students receive that 4.8 composite, they are exited from the ELL program, and we monitor them for 2 years afterwards. This has our current stats based on the 2024 Access scores. Looking at our elementary school, this year we have the past 3 years of data up here, but this current year, at the elementary level, we exited 495 students, which is just short of 20% of our elementary students. At the middle school, we exited 40 students, which is 2 more than last year, but we took a little bit of a dip percent-wise, going down to 6.4%, whereas last year we had 7.2%. And then looking at our high school, we also exited 40 students, which is 7.4%, and that is a 3% decrease from the last year. Looking at the district totals, we exited 575 students, which is 16.7%. And when we look at that compared to the state exit rate, we'd like to give our teachers the acknowledgement that they deserve, that we're still substantially above the state exit rate with 16.7% compared to 6.2%.
And a point to keep in mind is our numbers are great in terms of how many students we're exiting, but you will see percentages dip a little here and there because our population has grown so much that, of course, the percentage is going to go down even though your numbers continue to grow.
And not only that, but the face of our program demographic-wise is changing. Before we had a lot of English learners, but now we're having many more students that are qualifying as newcomers, coming to the country with very little English. So that's also kind of changing our exit rate a little bit too, because it's taking a little extra time. This slide here does show our exit rate. Again, 16.7% of our students met the exit criteria. And we did want to point out that we do have 353 students that are considered long-term English learners, which means that they have been enrolled in our program for 7 years or longer But what we have found is the majority of these students, in looking at the data, over 30% of them also have IEPs and are part of special education. And so we have students that are dealing not only with language challenges, but might also struggle academically.
So if you remember last year, I gave you an update on our newcomers committee that we formed, which was comprised of about 20 educators altogether, including some members of cabinet as well. And within that committee, we focused on 3 main areas. The first one was community, the second one was professional development, and the third one was curriculum and instruction. So the outcomes of that year-long work that we did yesterday addresses all 3 areas. The first area was we created a newcomers guide that is in our website, which I will quickly go into just to give you a quick brief look. We also created some professional development tools for general teachers and a toolkit for general teachers as well to be able to find something that may work for them in their classroom when they're working with students. So in this slide, you have on the right-hand side an image of what the English language learning toolkit is for all our teachers. On the left-hand side, that's the front part of our newcomers guide. And if I minimize here real quick and go to here, my friend Justin tells me this is going to pop up, right, Justin? All right, here we go. So if you look here, this is our newcomers guide. Can I X out of this without a problem? All right, just making sure. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. This document, you can download it right here, but I'm just going to scroll through it just to show you, give you an idea of all the hard work we put into this. We have a welcome letter. We have our goals. We have an icon guide for families that don't understand English. We provided a program overview, the resources that are available within the district, within the community, academically, for the EL population, and also post-secondary. We also provided some contact information. Here's the welcome letter. And then this is our goal with the district mission. And then as we continue, here's the icon guide with terminology so that parents can understand what's going on. And then we have an overview of the program. And then we move on to the types of resources available. And all of these are linked. So a parent can go in here and figure out, how do I do registration? And of course, these icons should help them understand what everything goes to. We got parent view, we got push coin, transportation, everything you can imagine for the district is available here as well as in other areas in the district website. We have the community resources that help parents, such as access to the DuPage Health Coalition, places like the DuPage County Community Services, Family Focus, Loves and Fishes, Mutual Ground. We also have park districts, libraries, anything that you could imagine a family that is brand new to the district could possibly use to help them along the way with a link to all of those places. Additionally, we have some academic resources for families so that they can have their kids work on very simple things in a website educationally guided type of scenario. And there are more resources here. And then we got some post-secondary education guide for parents. So I'm going to now get out of this and get back into our presentation. and go to slide. So those are some of the things that we've done within the committee to address those three areas. Clearly, the influx of newcomer students to our district brings a set of areas of need that need to be addressed. Some things are foreseeable, some things are not. And so we do the best we can. However, yes, are there concerns? Clearly. The number of newcomers coming in doesn't show any sign of slowing down. So how are we going to address that? Conversations within administration, talking to the administrators in each building, looking at spacing. We have concerns regarding that population of languages where it is extremely hard to find certain staffing that can help those students in their native language. There are some electronic supports and translanguaging within schools that could be a concern. And last but not least, the grading of students with minimal English can be challenging for teachers because it's the first time that they're dealing with the amount as opposed to it's just one kid. No, now it's not just one kid. Now you have 4 or 5 in your classroom. So we are looking at steps for remediation that are all listed right here. Clearly, we need to properly certified staff that are and most of these properly certified staff come with some years of experience, so that comes at a little higher cost. Not because of their skill set, even though it is a skill set, but because their experience and their college will set them somewhere in the scale for the contract on what it is, because we pay everybody the same based on that. Working on tandem with schools to help are some of the other things that we are looking at.
All right. So some staffing issues that we have within our department. Clearly, as Raphael mentioned, our numbers of English learners continues to grow, and that's on a daily basis. But the way that we're proactively approaching that is we're talking with administration and looking at ways to utilize grant funds to enhance staffing. Another issue that we have is our caseloads are growing, and it's a little bit challenging for our staff members to handle caseloads of 50 plus. We actually kind of did a little more math, and based on our staffing, the average caseload for our teachers is approximately 56 students per teacher. Another challenge we have is hiring additional staff. So it's hard for us to find certified staff members who are certified teachers, have the ESL and bilingual endorsements in, let's say, Uzbek, and fulfill all of our requirements that a teacher would need. So this is a challenge that we've had, but one way that we're kind of working around that is by the hiring of teacher assistants that speak those languages to offer instructional help within the students' classrooms. But clearly, the support from a teaching assistant is not the same as the support from a certified teacher, but we're doing the best we can to provide that support for students. And then finally, in some instances, we do have some instructional spaces that may not be ideal for our learners. In some cases, we have schools with very large populations, but their spaces are very small, so it might limit them to maybe 6 or 8 kids at a time because of small spaces, which essentially is limiting some of the instructional time that our teachers can have with our students. But we believe that the referendum that was currently passed will help address this situation across the district. So while we have some concerns, we have some proactive approaches to address them.
Now, I got some good news for you. Our seal of biliteracy, every year I tell you the figures, how many students actually were able to obtain the seal of biliteracy and how many students attained the commendation. Well, as you can see, the difference from last year to this year, we have over 40 students that attained the seal of biliteracy this past year, more than the year before. And 67 students attained the commendation and 65 attained it this year. That number really barely changed, but look at the 40 plus, you know, and that's great. Now, we offer over 50 languages. There's a lot of languages in this slide, all of what's provided by one of the two companies we use. And every year they continue to add 1 or 2 languages. And as long as they offer it, we are able to offer it to our students.
All right, in terms of professional development, as an EL department, we're continuing to provide our teachers with professional development on the implementation of the new English language development standards. Starting in 2026, our new access test will be reflective of the new English language development standards. So we're moving our teachers along with this, getting them comfortable with the standards for both instruction and assessment purposes. This is our 4th year where we have continued to provide optional book studies for our EL teachers. And we're doing those based on the needs of our teachers and the current trends. So because our students tend to struggle with writing, this year's book study is focusing on writing in academic content areas using cooperative learning structures. So we're working on that, and we have over 32 teachers who are signed up for our book study. We have also provided professional development to our elementary principals pertaining to access testing and how to work around some of those challenges that they're faced with in the building, such as spacing and scheduling. We have provided professional development on Kagan structures or cooperative structures with a focus of English learners at Gomber Elementary School. And we have also presented to the equity ambassadors on strategies for leveraging the assets of English learners in the classroom. And as a result of that presentation, we've had some other schools solicit us to do presentations in their specific buildings as they see the need for this information at the building level as well.
So, last slide. Here's the reality of our world here in 204. At this time last year, I told you we had 3,963 students. This year, we're over that by 241. Yet, we are doing, even though we are doing our best to continue educating the kids and our exit rate continues to grow, the reality is that we are working with 0.9 staffing less. That's about to change because we had some rollover funds that is allowing me to get at least 2 more teacher assistants. But still, they're not teachers, they're teacher assistants. More buildings continue to become bilingual buildings. And so when a building becomes a bilingual building, I have to staff it appropriately. And that includes possibly having to get more teacher assistants that would speak that language at minimum. The influx of students, as Tracy mentioned before, from the former Soviet Union countries, as well as we are getting a lot of incoming students from the turmoil happening in Venezuela, for example. We have 2,400 ELs in the district that this year that are born within the continental U.S., which is extremely important to understand that a lot of our students, even across the country, there are more ELs that are born within the country than are born outside of the country. Yes, the newcomer phenomenon has taken over the entire country. Illinois is not the only place that is dealing with this. But we have a lot of students that their parents moved and the language of comfort at home is their native language. So by the time they hit pre-K, kindergarten, they do not come with the necessary academic proficiency in English to be able to perform and survive in a gen ed classroom. So they have to then go through the EL program. We're currently in our 9th cohort, which is phenomenal. When you think about that, we get on the average 15 to 22 teachers from our district that have taken these cohorts. The department is working diligently to address the amount of paperwork that we have. We are looking into this company called Elevation that does a great job of helping in that regard. So we're hoping that we're able to secure a contract with them in the near future. But clearly, the amount of students continues to grow, therefore more paperwork comes with that. And oftentimes, there are certain people that are qualified to work with that. It can't just be anybody. Last but not least, our EL administrative team is understaffed as compared to other districts. I mean, it's me, Tracy, and a secretary, and then we have a couple of community coordinators that help tremendously with our newcomers, where most other districts are a little better equipped. So those are the realities of what we deal with on a daily basis. However, we continue to talk with Cabinet about better ways to provide services, about better ways to help students first, and then last but not least, we are just so proud and happy of what we do regardless, because we touch a very special population of students that it's our pride and joy to deal with. So with that, I'll leave it for questions for you.
Thank you. Ms. Fosdick?
Thank you. And in reading through this presentation and now hearing it presented live, I think it's a presentation of hope, despite a lot of challenges that your department and our teachers have had to face. But I commend you on continuing to do great work and having still really great outcomes for our students. I have just a quick question about the newcomer's guide, which is awesome and exactly the type of thing I would like, even not as an English language learner, should I move to a new place, right? That kind of how-to guide and how to understand what we do here. I think it's especially important when people are coming from somewhere further away or without the knowledge and framework of maybe how our educational system works. Is that published in English and other languages?
It is published in English, and we just got done translating it into Spanish and into Russian.
Very exciting.
We haven't published it yet.
Okay.
We were giving it the final touches.
Excellent. Happy
But
to
we
hear
will,
that.
once we have it, we will have a link right there below it that'll say en español, and I don't know how you'd say that in Russian, but it'll say that in Russian. You know, we're also very fortunate in the district as of last year, and actually with high recommendation from Dr. Talley, that we adopted that language line, which has been a huge help across the district. Our families now, understanding that we have that tool, don't have the fear to no longer enter our buildings and feel as if they are completely lost, because we will put somebody on the line, on the spot, to help them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rising?
My first question is, the staffing part did have me a little concerned, obviously. I give you incredible kudos for balancing and readjusting staff with 250 additional EL students. I guess, and Tracy, you had kind of touched on this a little bit as far as what it would take. I mean, obviously the best solution is additional staffing, first and foremost, because I started thinking, okay, well, what would it take to get our current staff ESL certified? But then I But then I started thinking through that. I'm like, well, okay, it's one thing to have them ESL certified, but then you're just spreading them even more thin. So I guess my question there is that if we did try to go down that path of getting our already current certified staff ESL certified, could that work in a way in which it wouldn't spread them more thin as teachers, but it could do some help within the building or the classroom? If you, and I don't need to get into the weeds too much, but is that something you've also thought of and looked at or considered as well?
Some of our buildings do that. Some of our buildings cluster students into the classrooms of teachers who are ESL certified to kind of alleviate the load of our ESL teachers.
Okay.
So that is being done, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's like a common practice throughout the district.
It's not best practice per se.
Yeah.
With that being said, the more teachers that are trained, the better understanding on how to work with that population of students.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe that's something that you can work with cabinet. Yeah. The slide 13, if you could. So you talked about the access test and where students have to be that 4.8 to no longer qualify for services. I just wanted to touch on this because what I really like about this is that it's not subjective, right? So it's a very kind of black and white, like you are either at that 4.8 or you aren't. And I'm assuming that is and you have seen historically that's a good indicator of where students can be more independent once they can test at that 4.8 level, that they don't need additional supports. I mean, do we still, I know they don't technically qualify for services at that point, but are we still evaluating to see if they need additional supports?
Yes, we have a 2-year monitoring process, and every year our students are monitored in November after first quarter and then in March after third quarter. Our teachers check grades at the secondary level to make sure the students are performing satisfactorily. And at the elementary, they check in with each of the classroom teachers to make sure that students are succeeding in the general education environment. And we also like to look at it, I always like to say that once a student reaches that 4.8, that's not the end of their English language acquisition journey. It's just they have enough skills to be successful in the general education environment, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to need some additional language support. So we like to have those check-ins between the ESL teachers and the classroom teachers.
Okay.
In fact, there are some parents that don't feel comfortable with their child exiting, and they ask if there is a possibility for their child to continue receiving some type of support from our end. Legally speaking, if they exit prior to 3 years, then the parent has the right to maintain them. And we don't really get that much, but we do get one, a few here and there. And that 4.8 exit criteria varies from state to state, even though all the states are, not all the states, but a large portion of the states are WIDA states. Some states have an exit rate of 4.2, 4.5. Illinois actually tends to be one of the highest scores for students to exit. And they have to exit by meeting that 4.8 in all 4 domains. That doesn't mean they have to have 4.8 in all 4 domains. But we do have a lot of students that are a 6 in speaking and listening, and that's fantastic. But they're not meeting the 4.8 because in the reading and the writing, they're not there.
Yeah.
So once they are able to meet that criteria, to your point, then we can feel comfortable that they're going to be able to perform in the general.
Well, and I like that you're evaluating them even after that, because that was always my concern. Even when we did the push to get more kids into AP and honors classes, I'm like, well, that's one thing to push kids into AP and honors, but are we setting up to fail? Same thing on this end with our EL students. Like, I want to make sure that we aren't exiting them too soon, and then there's no safety net for them, or we're setting them up to fail either, right? So that's all I really had. Just congratulations on triple the exit rates. I mean, that's awesome. And, I know we have great staff and teachers out there, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Ms. Gentz?
I want to start by reiterating what Ms. Fosdick said. This is a presentation full of hope, and you guys should be so proud of all that you accomplish, especially when you see how understaffed and underfunded really the whole program is. So first of all, thank you so much. I was wondering, in your ideal world, how many more staff would you like to have?
In my ideal world?
Yes, let's go. Yes. Yeah, what kind of ratio ideally would you like?
Ideally, for this particular set of students, we did the math today. We figured out how much we have 4,000, and we divided it by the amount of certified staff that we had. And we came out with 55 point something per.
Okay,
so then we divided that up by what was added. So the 5.6 times the amount, added that up and then divided it by 50. And it said that with 8 more teachers, we would be in heaven. But that's with this load. That's not going to happen.
Right,
we have to
of
be
course,
realistic. That's
of
with
course.
this load.
Right.
The state's numbers are different. The
Right.
state would probably call for more staffing
Than that. Okay.
to run for this type of population. However, I am extremely confident in my staff. They are, bar none. I say that every year when I come here, and I give them kudos, and some of them are watching. So if you're watching tonight, just know that I feel that my staff is superb. They do a phenomenal job, not only working with the kids, but also collaborating with general classroom teachers to ensure that the students are receiving the best support possible.
And being liaisons with the families, which is
Right.
really an integral part that they do, and they do it just as part of their normal everyday
Right,
flow.
yes.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. No, I would commend them as well. I know the whole board would. And then the only other question I had was, the influx of newcomers now, are there parent volunteers ever that will come and act as translators, even just in the welcoming process?
Funny that you asked that. I just had I don't, yes, very, very rarely. But I had a parent just a week before Thanksgiving that's Russian speaker and said, if you need anybody to help interpret, not translate, interpret in Russian, I'm available. And I said, okay, I do have a number of Russian people, but if I'm going to have you walk into a building to do that, I would like to pay you. I have a little pot on the side for that.
Right,
I would
okay.
like to pay you for your services based on what I tend to pay on the average for a staff person that does that on the side.
Okay.
So they fill out the vendor packet, and then we go through finance, and then we give them a vendor number, and then they submit a timesheet, and I pay them.
Okay.
But one thing that is nice is our 2 parent coordinators, Angie and Maria. They have conducted several meetings throughout the year, not just at the beginning, but they will send invitations out for parents who are new to the district and kind of have a District
Workshop.
101 workshop for our parents.
In
And-
different schools.
Right, at different schools. And not only does it allow them to get some basic information, but we find that there's a lot of networking that happens at those meetings. So that's been something that's been really successful from our new coordinators, from them doing those workshops.
Oh, that's wonderful. No,
And
honestly.
we do them in Spanish and in Russian,
Okay.
on top of English.
Wow. No, honestly, that is absolutely amazing and just goes to show how hard you all work. So thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you.
Ms. Jane?
So a couple weeks ago, board member Deming and I had this wonderful opportunity to attend an equity immersion summit. It was a day-long session focused on equity the day before our annual school board conference, the III conference. And I had the unique opportunity to attend a workshop specifically on newcomers and migrant students. And it was very illuminating to hear what the problems are that you have just delineated today that's happening across the state. In many ways, I think us being a majority district has allowed us to create some of the programming that now districts in Illinois are starting to build. So that was very validating for me to just hear, like, okay, we're doing a lot of these things. The newcomers guide is one of the things that was mentioned, and so I was really happy to hear that. And Board Member Fostick asked a really important question about the translation, and I was curious whether that would be at minimum available in the top 10 languages that we see offered, or if there's a way to do that in a way.
I can't guarantee the top 10 languages, but I
or
can try to
5 or
target the
something.
ones where we're seeing the newcomer population of students and families that
That
literally
need it.
have no English background.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And just one of the ideas that was discussed at length that I hadn't even thought about, but kind of goes to slide 19 on having those teachers available with the right certifications, was I had heard superintendents speak to hiring international teachers, and this being one of the focus areas that districts are doing. I hadn't even thought about that. I don't know if there's grant money out there to do that or what that would take, but I found that fascinating.
That's a common practice in the state. It happens with Spain, and it happens now. It's happening with a couple of other countries. I don't know. Did you wanted to add something to that?
In order to do that, you have to have a J1 visa.
Mm-hmm.
J1 visas have to be sponsored by the school system. So there are some school districts, Peoria is one, that has done that work. A former district of mine hired 40 special ed teachers from the Philippines. But the process of doing the J1, it is a process.
It's a process, okay.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
But just so you know, the embassy of these countries work in conjunction. In the state of Illinois, we have been getting exchange teachers, if you will, for many, many, many years from Spain.
Okay.
But once the district assumes the responsibility, they will pay for my flight to go to Spain to do the recruiting. They set up the recruiting. They set up everything there. Once I choose a candidate or two from our end, it's my job to help them find housing. All of these little things that sometimes I go like,
No, I can imagine. I just thought it was a creative way of thinking outside the box that I had not thought about, and I would imagine that would take a while to set up, but I did appreciate the creativity with which administrators were looking at how to resolve this issue that you just, so eloquently described. The other thing that I had caught my attention in your presentation on slide 18, you talked about how critical the translanguaging is for our newcomer students, where they don't know anything, they don't know as much English, and their ability to be able to speak their native language and help them think through that is so critical to their development. And so I was curious, how are we offering that given our limited staffing? How is that working for us in 204?
Technologically speaking, the use of iPads and the use of Google Translate have helped tremendously. However, I'm not sure to what degree we can sustain the iPad usage, which doesn't even come from our department. So we are experimenting. We are looking at different avenues to bring additional tools that may help. If you leave it up to her and I, we wouldn't want the students to have an iPad in their hand for that, because then we're limiting their power to learn and their opportunity to grow by saying, here's a crutch for you to use, as opposed to speak.
Developing the
and
skills.
Develop your language.
Yeah.
We value the use of the native language, and there's definitely a time and a place for it. But in some of the cases we've been seeing with the influx of newcomers, there's become an over-reliance on translation tools, where it's actually kind of, in some cases, it can inhibit students from really tuning into the English because they're waiting for the information in their native language, and that's not what we want to do. So we want to honor the native language, but essentially our main goal is to give our students the opportunity to acquire English and academic English, and by that they need to practice, they need to be exposed to it, they need to use it, and so that's what we would like to see our students do.
And this is not to say that we're against it.
No.
Because we're not. I think there's a time and a place for every tool, right?
Absolutely.
You just have to use it in a manner. I think that, yeah.
Just two more questions. When we have students who come in with little to no English, given the staff that we do have, how do we keep the student in the same grade until they become proficient and then move them forward? How does that progression work for that student or that profile?
Based on age, based on their individual knowledge, we would never hold a student back because of language. Language is not a determinant for your knowledge and your ability to think and to progress. And clearly, they come from their native country with their own set of tools. They've been going to school there, well, for the most part. We got a high school student once that had no schooling, and that's a challenge of it on its own. But for the most part, we are going to work with the student in every way possible to ensure that we at least can get the knowledge base necessary from them. We are not going to socially hold anybody back.
Okay, thank you for saying that. That's very important. And I'm sorry, I had so many questions. It was just such a perfect timing of this presentation with our session. In conjunction to what Board Member Gens said, another very interesting idea presented at the session that I got to attend was this idea of giving our paraprofessionals 6-week courses in the language of some of our newcomers, very conversational, light, ability to just greet one another and create a welcoming atmosphere for some of our newcomers. Some districts are utilizing that approach. I just thought that was wonderful. Like if our bus drivers and our other paraprofessionals, and I didn't know if we did that.
Well, just so you know, I hire paraprofessionals that speak that language. I don't. If our building turns bilingual in Russian, we post a position, and most of our own community parents apply.
Fantastic.
And we hire them to be teacher assistants as long as they have all of the necessary requirements required by the state. So all our teacher assistants in our bilingual program speak a particular language that is of need in that building.
Yeah, I just thought that was such a neat idea. I'm trying to put myself in these kids' place, right? How intimidating must that experience be? But then to have someone say hello, or greet you in your native language, that means the world. That could change everything in terms of motivation and attitude. So I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Mr. Kurubis.
I'm going to try to break it down to a practical example. Look at slide 12. I'm trying to wrap my caveman attorney head around some of this. So we have 425 Russian-speaking students, and they're distributed throughout all of our schools, all of our grade levels, all of our different classes. And we're obligated and we want to teach them and we want to take care of them and to provide resources and supports. And you mentioned certified staff and, you know, the kind of the legal requirements. But that same, you have a Russian-speaking student that might want to learn calculus, and then one that needs to count, and then one that needs to, you know, go to health class. So you have the legal requirement, but then because of their spread so thin, they're still sitting in a class with other students having to learn that program, and the challenges that are there. But it's not just our certified staff. They interact with, you know, social workers, guidance, you know, counselors, you know, and then there's all of our extracurricular activities that, how do they participate in sports and band and whatnot. So you kind of have the bare minimum legal requirements, but then you have, you know, a student that speaks Russian having to try to interact with all of the services and supports that we have, and the challenges that are there. So I can imagine the challenges, and I think we're doing, you know, a fabulous job. But the challenges go kind of even beyond the minimum legal requirements and all the little touches that you see. And it could be, you know, food service, you know, getting on the bus, just kind of all of the little areas where, you know, a kindergartner showing up to get picked up on the bus, or how do I order, you know, this sandwich, you know, all of the challenges there. So can you speak to that just generally?
Sure. Well, for starters, what we've noticed within the district are the trends are that pockets of population tend to live within proximity to one another. So we have certain buildings that are Russian buildings that have, for example, White Eagle. White Eagle houses the population of a complex around here that most Russian people tend to move to because that's where their community is. So fortunately, they're going to the same school, so a lot of the supports we're providing, we're addressing with a lot of kids. But the same thing happens at the middle school with still it has a very large population of Russian. Now we just got Scullin to have a population of 20 Russian, and we just posted a teaching assistant position for that. And Welch is sitting on the same. We have a teacher assistant there. So fortunately, however, to your point, there are going to be kids that move in different parts of the district, and there isn't not even 10 of that language. And we've been dealing with that in this country for years in helping our students. This was huge here about 10 years ago. We would get a Chinese kid over here at Owen, a Chinese kid over there at Kendall, a Chinese kid over at Bilta, and they would all be, how do we help these students? Nobody here speaks Chinese. It's a wonderful thing that happens when you start assimilating to a culture. Within about 3-month period, kids are like sponges, and then they learn the language. But that doesn't remedy everything. That fear that board member Jane was talking about is real, and so we try to do the best we can with the tools we have at hand. And I can't tell you that we are going to have a person greeting that kid at the entrance of the bus every day. I can't tell you that there's going to be someone at the lunch line, ensuring that they understand what is a sandwich as opposed to what's a pizza. But I'm sure that they're going to have a friend standing next to them that is going to help support them for the time being until they get associated to that. It's a big world out there, and we are just a small part of it, trying to do everything we can to help everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Page 14. One of the successes that you talk about is, our exit rates. I think it would be beneficial at this presentation to also include some of our other successes that we talked about at our November 4th meeting in the student report card. Because I think that we shouldn't just celebrate our exit rates, but we should celebrate some of the achievements. And this is the time to do it, because this focuses, that presentation kind of deals with the broader community, the broader district. But here we could see, how are they doing, overall on the IAR tests. To drive it home again, you have a Russian-speaking student that might have to take the ACT. All right. Well, how are they doing with that challenge? So, I think celebrating presenting some of the student achievement data at this point related to English learners would be beneficial. But I leave it up to administration whether they want to, pick the time and place for that. But overall, kudos. I think the district is actively managing the growth in our English language students, kind of adopting the program to make it better, to better serve our diverse linguistics, the background, and dealing with the associated staffing issues and the resource challenges. We're not dealing with it just here, but in other areas. But also emphasizing on the positives. So yeah, we got limitations and challenges, and we're managing those, but we're kind of doing a good job, and these are our successes. And I think if we use the data to also look at the places where we're falling down a little bit, then that'll help allocate the resources. But kudos to actively managing it and still achieving great results. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Deming.
No real questions, just a couple of comments. Certainly, congratulations, and the data that you shared is extremely encouraging. We always talk about all that we do with minimum of resources, and you guys are certainly exhibiting that quality that we speak of quite a bit. Slide 22, where you pointed out the 2,418 ELs in our district born within the continental U.S. I had no idea. Yeah. And as you talk about the numbers like that across the country, that's really illuminating, because the thought is, my thought had been, I can't speak for my thought, if I had seen the numbers of that ELs, I would have assumed they were newcomers or those recently within the country. So very illuminating, very illuminating. And Tracy, your comments much align with some of the comments that Mr. Karubas and Ms. Jane talked about as far as the necessity of the liaison with families and helping them to have some trust, because it can be extremely unnerving, and certainly there can be that fear, especially if you're not speaking the language. So the student resource, the resources, the newcomer resources guide is fantastic, and congratulations on the seal of both in both areas. So very well done. Thank you so much, and look forward to hearing and seeing successes that you have to share with us next year. And like Mr. Karubas mentioned, any additional successes that you want to share along the lines from an academic standpoint, and others we would love to see as well.
I have 2 extra successes we can share. So we had a teacher at Scullin be nominated as the A+ award, right? We just went over there and gave her an award about a month ago, Dr. Talley and IPEF. And then there's another teacher that was asked to be nominated for teacher. Julia?
The same person.
Is the same? No, Julia Avila was nominated. Oh, you're not aware of that? Oh, okay. So, but we have another teacher that was asked if she could be nominated for the Teacher of the Year in some other capacity. So we know our teachers are doing a great job.
They are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you. I also was really struck by that 2,418 number. I don't think you shared that before with us.
Which one?
In previous years, how many students were born?
Yeah, well, we actually did.
Okay.
Yes, Dr.
Maybe
Talley
I
asked me today, why didn't we include it again this year? I said, I'll put it right in.
Oh, I don't remember
I must
that.
admit, I
Yeah.
missed it before.
Because that's a huge number, and I was thinking like, do these students not, are they in schools where they're not kind of forced to learn that, or are there younger students so that maybe, do the younger students evolve quicker to, the English language is, I guess, one question.
Yes, they do.
And so this 2,418 that are in that program, somehow they're getting more influence maybe at home than at school to kind of move more towards the 4.8 score that they need to get out of that training, or?
Well, 2,418 students that are in our program were born in the United States. Each child is an individual, and they grow at their own pace. We would hope that from that 2,418, a larger portion of that would be of a younger group of students. Usually tends to be the case. Parents are now establishing themselves in the country and so on. But I can't guarantee it. I guess we could break it down further.
No, I mean, I don't want to go down there, but it just struck me like, wow, that's a big number. I also recently, I think it was in the spring, I was at some reading thing at one of the elementary schools, and there was a child that spoke Russian and like virtually no English. And I agree with you that it was phenomenal to see the other little students helping him, like, because I was trying to read a book and he didn't, and I'm like, frog, and they're like, and like helping the student feel comfortable. And at one point, a TA came up and started speaking to him in Russian, and it was like really nice to see the support this student was getting from not only the TA but also the surrounding classmates that really wanted to help him understand, what was being said. So I see that in action, and it's a wonderful thing, very helpful for the students. I also was reflecting on myself. Like, I took 4 years of French. I worked for a French company, and they found out that I had 4 years of French, like way back in high school. So suddenly I'm supposed to be literal in French, and everything that's coming at me now is in French, like all the emails, the voicemails. And so those crutches, those tools that are there were invaluable. But I know they couldn't be something I could live with. I eventually was going to go to a meeting and have to speak with them. So I get that. So thank you so much. It is a challenging area, and definitely an area that's going to probably continue to grow and challenge us even more. And our limited resources in our district impacts lots and lots of our programming and our ability to do everything that we would love to do. But it sounds like you are doing phenomenal with the resources you have, and hopefully down the road we can see some more there to help you. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, the last item is legislative advocacy or other items for the board. Anyone have any items to say? We had a very successful conference. I think all of us took valuable seminars to increase our skills. We had a couple of excellent presentations and really appreciated the opportunity to gain more knowledge and support our community in even a broader way. So thank you. All right, with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
I wasn't going to take that from you.